Good day guys, Frank here from Reaper Air Defense. This video has been long overdue, but yeah, today we're gonna be assembling the body part of the Mark 1 Reaper carbine. When this puppy has been done correctly, produces anywhere from 80 to 127 joules. This is for all the people that has purchased the 3D parts, the STLs, CAD files, manufacturing drawings. So once you have printed all of your parts, you'll be at this stage. And we will assume that you have your HDR50 already primed with power kit, either from eBay, Home Defense 24, and you already have your tuning barrel with external threads already installed, and you're all ready for the assembly of the carbine. One thing to note though, if you already have a barrel installed, you still will have to have this pin fabricated. This is a stainless steel pivot pin. It's about 31.2 millimeters long, and it's got M5 threads tapped on both ends. This is just where the sleeve will pivot. So to get this pin in, you will find once you've printed this particular part, you'll have to ream open this hole with a, I think, 8.5 mil drill bit, and just ream it diagonally from this end to this end. So try to go in circular motion so that the pin can easily press in. Mine, I just pressed in mine for the heck of it, just for explanatory purposes. Another thing that you need to take note of, once you have printed this part, there's a V where it grips the bottom Picatinny of the HDR50. Please ensure that you file it out smooth, and depending on how your slicer settings have been set, it might leave a seam in this area, which will give you the illusion that it's a tight fit. But once you have dressed out the insides of the sleeve and around it, the corners of these V tapers, of these V angles, you'll be all set to go. I personally love a tight fit, so when you install this guy, it stabilizes the launcher in the carbine. So this is the fit that I normally go for. Yeah, it takes a little bit of elbow grease, but I rather prefer that. So once I've installed it, it's a slight press fit, and when I install my air elbow and my bottle, everything sits snugly and well secured. So we'll start with assembling the torch Picatinny or M-log rail to the main body of the carbine. So this will be this part. Mine looks a little bit filed and chopped because I'm always experimenting with different hole locations. So this is my first part that I printed. So I haven't done any improvements on here yet, but it's all similar. So you'll need let me just check my bin here. Yeah, it's about M4 by 10 countersink bolts. So you want to flip this guy over, You're gonna have your two M4 nuts. I generally just put one in there. The reason for the loose fit for the nuts inside the hexagon recess is due to 3D printing tolerances. So what you want to do is go from the inside and secure the countersink with your index finger while securing the M4 nut from falling out. Just kind of thread it on, and when it gets tight you have to take precautions here depending on which material of choice you used. I'm using PG, so I've got some flex in it. So currently it's tight, and then I just slowly align it to its corresponding hole. The other M4x10 countersink, another M4 hole, M4 nut. Use my 3mm Allen key. And all of my tightening is done with the long handle side. It's just to prevent me damaging my prints. And you don't even need to wrench it. That's on there quite snugly. M-lock to the main body installed. So I've done some improvement to this part. It's just freshly off, not actually freshly off, but I printed it during today. I haven't had time yet to clean it, but it looks like a decent clean print. So previously I had a very weird way of mounting the nuts to the inside, but after my first attempt to assemble this on camera, I got a little bit frustrated. So I added these holes from the top with a little recess in here. So what you want to do is take your corresponding Allen key, which is a 4mm. So when you 3D print, this is supposed to be a clearance hole, but I like it for this purpose. So I can just thread the bolts through. Please take note of the angles. The longest slope should be pointed down. Short side to the top. So an update that I've done currently is only counterboard holes, so hole with a recess in here. But on my updated model, I've added hexagon recess in there, so you can just press in your M5 X nut. But in my case, I'll just drop mine in. And by the way, I think that is a M5 by 12mm bolt. So I'm just using my finger to support the hex nut, because I don't have the recess built into this model. So I will need a 9mm socket head. for that reason, I put the hex in. Where's my other M5 nut? One second, let me just quickly tighten this last nut. Okay, it's a little bit awkward to try and capture everything on video, but once you have tightened everything, this is what you will be left with. Because I don't have the hex inserts, I just kind of use my flat to secure the nut while I'm tightening. So that's all tightened up. M5 by 12 cap screw with 2 M5 nuts. So now we got our front cone and our M-lock torch rail attached to the body. So now let's proceed to assemble the sleeve. Let's just slide in. Make sure you'll need your M5 by 12 countersunk screws. Three more Allen key. No need to torque it. As far as you can go with the long handle side, then you will still be left with a high friction pivot. Next, we're going to assemble the securing button or push button. You'll need an M3 by 16 countersink screw bolt. (16 or 12? Can't remember. It's a small one. You're gonna need your VD 192 spring, compression spring. So at this point, what you would want to do is install it from the flashlight rails side. One second, let me just adjust the camera. So in my case, I couldn't find at the time I only had a flathead countersink screw. So I'm gonna start threading my there's a hole in the push button for good reason. This is the trickier part if you're assembling this by yourself. So this is what I'm doing. I'm threading in the countersink screw, and at the bottom we're going to be screwing in this guy. This is just a spring end retainer. So what you want to do is, with the nipple down, you want to slide it underneath the push button. You have to get in there with your fingers. So what you want to do is align the two holes more or less. Secure it with your one hand. Wait until it breaks or threads through the button, and then try to line it up by feel. If you're not used to working with nuts and bolts, it will take you a few tries. Just tighten mine up. So my one, I've disassembled a million times. My one is kind of loose. My end cap retainer, I just need to reprint this part. It's mainly made for one-time fixture, but I've like experimented with different buttons, so I kind of unscrewed mine, so I spoiled the threads. Next, you would want to secure the spring in. Between those two nipples. So what I generally do, I kind of press in the spring skew. I'll use my finger to depress, to compress the spring, while I secure it with my other hand. Then just use a flat screwdriver just to pry it in. The spring is quite strong, so once in, this is what you'll be left with. Next on the list, we're going to be assembling the back body. And this is the nicer part of the assembly. It just kind of slides on. So what you'll notice, on the inside you have more hexagon cutouts. I've already took the liberty to secure one, I think M4 nut. Let me just be sure of myself. Yep, M4 nut. So at this stage, what you want to do is get your M4, my flat screwdriver is now magnetic. So you want to secure your nut in, don't worry about that guy. I will secure him shortly. use your M4 by countersink. Gently thread them in. Till it stops. Sorry, just adjusting the view. Now we will commence with securing that other nut. As I've mentioned many times over, I've disassembled this kit so many times just to ensure that I've covered all of my bases and that it is well put together and well secured. Once you use your long handle side, it will give a click. M4 nut here, M4 nut there, countersink here, countersink here. Oh, by the way, you guys can follow along with the appropriate bolt lengths. I have supplied a 3D PDF that you can navigate through it and just see where all of the correct size bolts go. And yeah, you can also see how it's assembled, spring details, bill of material details. Last but not least, you'll need a I think it's a M4 by 20. So this guy goes in through this hole, so this will connect the two bodies lengthwise. Use our Allen key. Should have used a hex nut. Just use my fingers to just 1 second. Let me do this off camera. Okay, I eventually got it in. I threaded the nut on with my finger. I think it's nope. It's a formal Allen key. I don't talk the living daylights out of this carbine because I've placed all of these fasteners, cap screws, countersink screws, accurately to give us the intended strength. And by this point, once this guy's in, once all of your two countersinks have been fastened to M4 nuts and this cap screw to this M4 nut, now you have a strong carbine. But to just reinforce it, I use this. So this got a twofold purpose. Once again, I still have the outdated version, which is the short piece. On the updated version, it will almost cover the entire length of the top Picatinny rail. So this acts as a riser and as a extra security blanket to maintain the two halves at that little intersection where they split. So what I generally do, as long as I can have one, yeah, you'll need M4 nuts again. So I'll try to let me align one. It's my 3 more Allen key. I will do this one bolt and one nut. I'll just tighten it lightly, put in my next nut, just lightly. We clamping these 2 rail guides / riser, clamp it together from one side, from one end to the next end, to ensure you get equal clamping force. And I have another nut is already installed. Last nut. Just go over them again and gently tighten them until all of them feels that they're taking sufficient tension or compressing the 2 guides sufficiently. There you have it. I have not supplied a foregrip with this kit, so I just use this UTG 5-position ambidextrous. It's got a long, ridiculous name. I think for this guy I'm gonna need an M5. So at this stage, if you have a foregrip, you might as well put it on. So in this version, I allowed a little bit too much tolerance, but it has been updated, and you guys will have the updated version. It's a long bolt. Make sure it's in there tight. Now I use the long handle side. I can't afford my foregrip being all wonky. I like it snugly secured. Mine's got a little bit of wiggle room due to some printer tolerances, but it's all good. So let's install the back knuckle for a foldable stock. You will need M5 times 35 cap screws. Now this is what I meant. So in the beginning, I kind of made these hexagon inserts a little bit undersized, but it ended up tilting in my favor. So I kind of it's kind of a press fit, and if it's not a press fit, you can just slightly warm up the nut, like real slightly, and just press it in with a pair of long nose pliers. But just ensure that you press it in so that it's flush and not all skew. So if you remember this part, so that's what's been updated. So it has two two M5 hexagon cutouts inside this body, where you do the same thing. You either press it in or slightly tap it in, or warm it up with a lighter, slightly warm it up and then tap it in, and then you'll thread the M5 times 12 cap screws in from the top, and that kind of makes things a little bit easier. So the only tricky part will be the push button. So let's go along. I've kind of already pre-installed my cap screws so I don't lose them. This is the easier part, the assembly. See what I mean by if the nut is a press fit into its recess or cutout, it makes assembling so much easier. Makes it so easy. So you don't have to fiddle with one hand trying to secure, one finger trying to hold on to the nut and secure it, while this one is trying to thread it in. So now we at this point. So this point, if your HGR 50, HGR 50, it's already primed. Sorry about that. It's already primed with its threaded barrel. So this is a different kind of threaded barrel that I'm experimenting with. So this is the HGR 50, my first one. So it's got the threaded barrel already in, my own Reaper power kit, and then my gas chamber insert has been removed. But more importantly, you're going to check the fit. So what you want to do is you want to slide your sleeve all the way down, guide it in there. Then you'll hear this, which will sound like heaven. This push button will prevent us from prevent the HGR from pivoting out. So a push of the button, then you can remove it. Otherwise, it's a gentle persuasion. It clicks in. So now we're almost halfway there. So while we're at this stage, another thing I've updated, just to make it easier for 3D printing, I have, one second. Sorry, I just had to adjust the camera. So I've got this freshly printed knuckle. This looks much more sleeker than my previous division 2. I think it's M4 by 35 countersink countersunk screws. But then again, I said you need to verify with your 3D PDF if that is the correct bolt length. I'm just kind of winging it, but this one actually came out very nice. This is spec G, 4 walls. I think it's four walls, 20% infill. It's quite strong. So in my case, I haven't assembled this yet. Let me just go fetch the older version. So this is the first print, the original. So once you have assembled your stock, you'll take these two halves and you'll just line it up until it is flush with the back end. Oops. And then you'll slowly crisscross start tightening these. On my one, I chose to put dome heads in here, but I think on the model it's cap screws. So and please, when you assemble this, please ensure use the long handle side. Because this will give you the feel that if something is resisting. So in my kit, mine was printed with blue painter's tape, and you'll note that the ends kind of peeled off the printing bed, so that's why I have a gap in here. But if you printed yours correctly from this face upwards, then you shouldn't have this warpage on this end. I might reprint this, or I'll just put in a 2-3 mil either TPU or PEG spacer 3 mil, so I can just compress it while tightening. And if you also make this mistake and you don't want to reprint it, and you've already purchased the package, please reach out to me and I will supply you with this STL, so you can just attach, so you can just disassemble this and slide it in there. This will be the only M6 cap screw in the assembly pack, but I think I've updated this to take a button head. So what you want to do is just thread it in, take your knuckle, line it up, M6 nut, insert it to this bottom end, 5 more Allen key, I've left a threaded hole in here that is for a grub screw plunger. Basically it looks like a set screw, but it incorporates a ball bearing at the tip of it. So on the inside there's a compression spring that kind of forces the ball bearing out. So if you want to utilize the function, you can thread it in there and just wait until it clicks. So you'll see there will be a dimple. So once it catches that ball bearing, it will kind of click into place. But I never got around to using this function because, I mean, if you're building this guy for home defense, having your launcher in a fold-up position might be the last position you would want it, or the last state you would want it in. I always keep mine primed and ready. So we're almost done. If you went through the PDFs, I've printed this part, but this is what the elbow will look like when it's done. So this will be a 3-piece. Let me just get my other 3D printed parts. Okay, so we're back. So if you look through the PDFs, you'll have this part. This will have to be made out of mild steel, and you'll have this threaded part with a formal hole through it, and you'll have this chamfered part. So how I did mine was I threaded my part into the HDR, and then I used this set screw, which is actually a M8 grub screw with a hole through it, and I will thread this in using red Loctite, and then I would screw on this elbow until it tightens out, and then I will just adjust my angle if need be, and then I will use a wrench and I will gently take it around the flat part, and I will unscrew this as an assembly. So I'll unscrew this as an assembly, and then I'll send this, if you know a buddy or whichever fabricator you are using, and then I would go for MIG, or you can use TIG as well, but MIG gives you that nice thick seam. Remember, this elbow needs to withhold or withstand 1100 psi. I've had this thing in 2 parts with O-ring gaskets, 90 sure it doesn't work. At the end of the day, the air always passes through this 2-part. Hence why I opted to just weld mine shut, make it up. And then after, when you're done making it, you can send it for QPQ or bluing. And at this process, don't forget about O-ring. I think this is a OD of 20.5 millimeters times 3 mil thick. Now, this is a part that I printed out of PETG. Now here's the interesting thing. I would like to experiment if we print this thing like from 8 walls, out of 8 walls, nylon carbon fiber with like 60% or even 100% infill. Will this thing actually be able to contain the pressure? Anyhow, that's a topic for another time. So let's assume you have done preparing your part, welding it and treating it. So at this stage, you'll just screw it back in with its O-ring. So this will be where you're at. So then you would want to fold it to the other end, then go get an air tank. So just just bolstering the standard stock with this swivel arm against your shoulder. This will be quite a weak setup. That's where the tank comes into play. So you'll slide your tank in. That's why I never bothered to put in the set screw. Line up my tank. Slowly start threading it in. Once this has been threaded in, your stock now is bulletproof. So this is how you assemble the Mark 1 Reaper Mark 1 carbine 80 joule monster. Now if you at this point, wait, let's finish off this video completely. 1 second, let me just go fetch my barrel. So when you're at this point, you might as well get your muzzle brake. This will come in already pre-threaded. With this model I chose to go with a coarser thread, but yours will be in 15 times 1. When you screw on your muzzle brake, please use some glue, not super glue, on the threads. Well, it is plastic or blue, ideally red Loctite, and screw it on and leave it for 24 hours until it's all solidified. So when you've reached this point, all you need to do is there, my one clicks now. Screw on your barrel. You'll be left with this. Now will be a good time to mount the scope, and of course you can use my cheap flashlight holder if you got a similar lumens flashlight in stock. That is just 120 lumens, but I'm sure you get like more impressive flashlights. You probably might want to put on a 400 lumens flashlight on here, but easy to hold. I like the ergonomic setup, flashlight right here. When my left hand is on the foregrip, I can toggle the flashlight on with my thumb. Any questions? Please let me know in the comment section. You know my email address. I'm eager to help people, and I wasn't actually planning on starting a channel with this in mind, but thank you to all of my subscribers, and yeah, please stay tuned. Big plans for the next year or two. I'm not gonna reveal it, but it is in development. I won't say too much, but stay tuned. See you in the next one.